Today we're going to be giving you an update on the Return of Delegations project. My name's Edith Ferraro and this is my colleague Athena Ferraro, and together we're working on the Return of Delegations in Queensland. So we just wanted to jump on today and give you a little bit of an update to let you know what's been happening and what's coming. So just the agenda for today. So we're going to give you an overview of the entire Return of Delegations project across all of the states. And then we're going to go through specifically for Queensland. And we're going to be talking about the phase we're currently in, which is returning the SPV delegations. And we'll touch on the new permit scheme we're developing. We'll talk about the next phase, what's coming next after this, and we've got time for questions and additional support. So throughout the entire session today, if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them into your chat box today. Athena will be monitoring any questions, so if you'd like us to cover anything specific, please feel free to let us know. Okay, so starting out with the overview of the entire project, if you aren't aware, the NHVR in 2014 actually delegated the permit authority out to all the states and territories. Now, when that transition was made, the Department of Transport and Main Roads in Queensland took on that responsibility. So ever since that date, TMR have been processing all Class 1 permit applications on behalf of the NHVR. So TMR currently work with around 77 councils to obtain consent for access, and customers currently submit their applications directly to TMR for Class 1 applications. Now, the ministers directed that once the NHVR portal was up and running, that the NHVR was to return all of the delegations from the states. So I'll give you an update on what that looks like across the country. So, in Queensland, currently we have returned the Class 1 agricultural delegations, and the NHVR already processes all of the Class 2 and Class 3 applications in Queensland, as well as across border travel. Now, in New South Wales, we've returned Class 1 agricultural vehicles and Class 1 special purpose vehicles. Again, we process Class 2 and Class 3 permits for New South Wales as well. The only outstanding delegation in New South Wales remains is the oversize overmass. So we're working on that alongside the Queensland return transition also. Now, ACT, Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania, we've returned all Class 1, 2 and 3 vehicles, so the NHVR currently processes all of those applications. So just the main takeaway from these slides is we're currently working on returning the Class 1 OSM in New South Wales, and we're working on returning the Class 1 SPV next in Queensland. So I'll talk about that a little bit more now. So specifically in Queensland, in August this year, we returned the Class 1 agricultural delegation. So that means that any customers applying for agricultural vehicles will come through the NHVR portal directly. We are now in the phase of returning the special purpose vehicle delegation. So we are targeting October at this stage, and we'll provide email communications when we have determined an exact date for that go live. So just keep an eye out for any of that communications. We'll send you information sheets and all the information that you'll need for that transition. And lastly, the OSM delegations, which we'll be targeting next, we are looking at hopefully returning that around December this year. So we'll keep you posted, and we'll do more of these webinars to let you know that progression when we move into that phase. Okay, so what is a special purpose vehicle? So for any of those who aren't familiar with that term, basically all of your cranes, your all-terrain, truck-mounted, any vehicle that has been built for a specific purpose will be classed under your special purpose vehicle category. So that means it will fall under your Class 1 category as well as the SPV. So we decided to break it into the 3 phases so we could tackle each specific vehicle type at a time. If you do have any questions in regards to any specific special purpose vehicles, please feel free to get in touch with us or pop them into the questionnaire box today. Now, just to give a bit of a bigger picture, there are 4,000 applications that are currently being applied for each year in Queensland for special purpose vehicles. So that just gives you a rough idea of how many applications will actually be transitioning back to the NHVR. Now, just to clarify a few points there. So when the return of delegations for SPVs does occur, what that means for you as a road manager is you will no longer receive applications from TMR for these vehicles. Everything will be through the NHVR portal. So as soon as we advise of that go live date, you won't be receiving any SPVs from TMR anymore. Everything will be within the NHVR portal. Now, for customers and for road manager reference also, there are two points of access that special purpose vehicles can consider before they actually apply for a permit. So the first one is pre-existing, the National Class 1 Special Purpose Vehicle Notice, which some of you may be aware of already. Basically, that notice has a list of council restrictions in a PDF table. And as part of this transition, the NHVR is actually planning on building out that as a network layer in the route planner. So it's going to make it a little bit easier for a quick reference. It will be located in the layers of the portal. So you can see exactly what council roads in your area have been included, as well as any restrictions.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's a really great tool to support industry with being able to visually see the approved roads, and to the opposite, of course, the roads that are not approved for travel. So although in Queensland a lot of it is access by exclusion, it still really assists to ensure compliance on the local council approved network.
Yeah, that's right.
And as well, this really gives the council a great opportunity as well to view that visually mapped network. And of course, if there is any dramas with what's on that map, we can work on getting those updated for you.
Yep. So just to clarify, that is a pre-existing notice that's already out. So council would have already given their approval to be part of that notice. What we're doing is just taking that approval in the form of a PDF and just mapping it onto a network layer to make it a bit more easier to visually see. Now, the next point we have included for the transition is the Queensland Class 1 crane permit scheme that we have been working on developing for the return of SPV delegations. And basically, that will be mapped as a layer in the portal as well. So I'll talk you through a little bit more exactly what that means if you haven't heard of a permit scheme before. And just an FYI, we have been working with LGAQ, SICA and TMR to develop this scheme. So we've all been hands on deck working with local government. So I'm sure you've heard from either of these parties in regards to this scheme. So what is a permit scheme? So a permit scheme is basically a set of criteria that a customer must meet in order to be able to apply for a permit. So even though you do supply a pre-approval to participate in the scheme, the customer still has to get a permit for access, and they still have to apply via the NHVR portal. So here is a list of the configurations that will be included in the scheme if you're wondering what is actually eligible to operate. So the 3-axle all-terrain cranes, your 4-axle and your 5-axle all-terrain cranes will be included at the specified masses on the screen, as well as the crane with boom dolly configurations that can comply with category IAP category 1 or 2. So it's really important to note under this scheme that only vehicles that are being identified by TMR as IAP category 1 or 2 are eligible to participate in the scheme. So what that means is the customer still has to apply for their authority to operate, their ATO document, and as part of that TMR assessment, they will identify what level IAP category they are. And basically that just determines which network access they're going to be given under this scheme. So just an FYI, that's sort of the initial part of the process. And then once they've been given their IAP category number from the state, they can then use that to apply for any state or council roads that have been participating in the scheme.
Yeah, so as per TMA's existing IAP Category 1 and 2, they will be the consent requests that you are currently receiving from TMA for period permits, so the 3-year period permits. So we pretty much have been working very closely with TMA in regards to their policy just to work on like-for-like access. So all of the combinations that they are existing, they're currently giving approval for, under the IAP Category 1 and IAP Category 2 classifications, that's exactly what will be included in this permit scheme.
Okay, so just to make it a little bit clearer on the process, so the customer still has to apply for a permit under this scheme, and their permit will reference an approved network layer. Now, that approved network layer will be based on the pre-approvals that we've received from council. So thank you if you have already signed up to the scheme. We're going to show you a demonstration of the mapping layer that's been ready to be put into our system. So we'll take you through that shortly. So basically, any pre-approvals we receive from the councils will be displayed visually on the layer for the customers to apply for, and that's what will be referenced on their permit. So that network layer map, which you'll see shortly, is going to show any roads they can't access, any structures that are restricted as well. So it's very clear to them exactly where they can and can't travel. So it's definitely a major benefit for compliance for local councils. It makes it much easier to control your SPV network as well if you need to remove anything or add anything on if you need to. So it's a great tool that the customer still has to apply for a permit, but you're still going to get that visual network representation on the map as well.
Another excellent thing about the approved network, just in comparison to an approved network under notice, if you wanted to change an approved network that was under a notice or a gazettal, there is a process there, and it does take, I believe, up to 28 days to change anything. Whereas our approved network under a permit scheme, road managers and local councils can change and make changes to that approved network whenever they want. So we don't have to wait 28 days. As soon as you need something changed, we can change it very, very quickly. So that's also a great benefit. If you can sign on to the permit scheme and give a permit period of 3 years, you'll always be able to, at any point in time, review your network and make changes whenever you need.
And also it's important to mention as well that you can still impose any conditions to mitigate any safety or infrastructure concerns, and they will all be visible on the mapping as well.
So I think this is where I'll show.
Yeah, so I'll pass you on to Thina now, and we'll just show you exactly what this mapping is going to look like when it's published.
Okay, so what we're working out here is just a UAT version of the NHVR portal. So these layers are still going through testing and quality assurance before we publish them. And that's a good point as well. So the permit scheme is still in the development phases, so it's not yet published. We are looking to publish it very, very soon in line with the return of delegations. So the maps is still a work in progress. What we can demonstrate for you today is pretty much exactly the look and feel from the first set of data that we received from the pre-approvals early on. But of course, if you are a road manager that is wanting to sign up to the scheme or participate in the scheme now, it's just about obtaining your data and getting it there on the map as soon as possible. So just from our route planner tool here today, I'm just going to navigate to the layers tab, and we've actually developed a new heading in our layers titled permit scheme. So this is where all of the layers are going to live that relate to our particular Queensland Class 1 crane permit scheme. You can see these 4 layers are relating to the council approved roads, and it's actually broken into multiple layers. So we really are trying to sort of take an enveloped approach to the heavy vehicle layers, because we do understand the level of access will differ depending whether you're a SPV 3-axle crane at a maximum of 36 tonne, a 4-axle crane at a maximum of 48 tonne, or a 5-axle crane at a maximum of 50 tonne. The SPV 40 to 70 tonne layer for some of the most recent pre-approvals, where we've sort of included the crane and dolly combinations a little bit later on in the process, but that layer there will cover off the 40 to 70 tonne crane and dolly combinations. So I'm just going to run you through and select on the SPV 3 at 36 tonnes. So that will cover off the 3-axle all-terrain crane at a maximum of 36 tonne. And I'm just going to scroll in here and we can start to see there some great level of access. So this is, as I said, just the initial pre-approvals and data that we obtained early on in the process, and we can start to see we're already getting some great coverage for these heavy vehicle combinations. Now, just from a quick glance there, we can see some orange shaded areas and some green shaded areas. So green shaded areas mean access by exclusion, but there's no conditions on it. The orange areas, once again, mean all roads or access by exclusions, but they are conditional. You can already see just from this zoomed out vision here that there are restricted structures. So if you are a road manager who is not willing to give all roads within your council area, and that is totally understandable, you can give access by exclusion. And a really good example of this is the Gold Coast. So I'm just going to zoom now into the Gold Coast. We can see there we've got a nice green shaded area and we've just got some restricted structures. Okay, so from a customer's point of view, I can view this map and see, yep, I can go everywhere in the Gold Coast City Council Shire boundaries, but I cannot cross these little red structures. So very, very helpful for the industry just to get that visual representation of where they can and cannot go. And that, of course, will encourage compliance on the local council network. Now, Gold Coast is also a really good example because they have given us more restricted structures the heavier the cranes get. So some of the participating councils have the same level of access, whether you're a 3-axle crane, 4-axle crane or 5-axle crane, and that's perfectly acceptable. But the Gold Coast is a really good example of how you can start to change the access dependent on the combination that you are. So I'm just going to select now on the SPV 4 at 48 tonne, and you can see there's a significant more amount of restricted structures, which is perfectly fine. And you can see there, once again, the customer would just have to make sure that they're zooming in and making sure that their route to get from A to B is not crossing any of these restricted structures. I'll just zoom now as well, or drag myself across to an orange restricted structure, an orange council boundary. So you can still see there that there are restricted structures that are a do not cross structures. But when I actually select into this orange area now, I can see an overall condition that the road manager has imposed. Okay, so from a customer's point of view now, I can see that I've got an orange shaded area. I'm going to select on the map. I need to make sure that I can comply with the condition that the road manager has imposed. So I can have access by exclusion as long as there is no travel on unsealed roads when visibly wet. Okay, so I can start to plan my journey from A to B as long as I can comply with that condition and as long as I'm not crossing any restricted structures. And it's also very exciting because even though this is just the first stage of the map, we've already got another 5 or 6 councils that we're just waiting to add on as well to start to really visually give this access, which is really beneficial to industry, but also to the road managers just to be able to view and change the access that you're giving at any point in time. So worst case scenario, tomorrow you need to add more restricted structures on. Very, very easy process. You'd just be emailing either myself, who has been really taking on the majority of the data when it comes to these maps and making sure everything's all right, and talking to our internal GIS team here who's mapping it. But also if you wanted to provide those updates through to Robbie Chow or even David White from CIPA, who's also working very, very closely in order, we're sharing a lot of the information at the moment, just to get those informations through or any updates to the map. So if you are a council who is already provided a pre-approval, we do recommend that as soon as you jump into as soon as we publish the maps, you jump in, you have a look, make sure everything's great, and if you did want to take another look at it and just make sure there's nothing you've missed in regards to a restricted structure or anything, and just get in touch if there's any issues.
Thank you. Yeah, so you can see the great benefits of having it all visually on the map. You can go through, makes it much easier as a road manager to view what network access is provided under the permit scheme.
And also just for a customer, it really does, opposed to a PDF spreadsheet of restricted structures or anything like that, for industry to be able to visually see it on the map really does encourage a higher level of compliance, because they do want to do the right thing, and they definitely don't want to go over a restricted structure if it's going to damage the bridge or their assets, as in their cranes or their configurations. So it really is an excellent tool to have this visually on the map for all stakeholders.
Yeah. And like Dina said earlier, as soon as the permit scheme is ready to go, we're going to be publishing it, and when that happens we will be sending heaps and heaps of communications via email to you, so you'll know exactly when that is happening. And also, like Athena said, if you are interested in participating in the scheme, you might, if you haven't responded yet, you might have seen an email come through from me yesterday asking if you're interested in participating. So all you have to do is fill out the form and list any restricted structures and send that back to us, and we'll be able to enter that data onto the map. But if you are interested, please feel free to contact either Athena or myself, or get in contact with Robert Chow at the LGAQ or David White from SICA as well. Apologies, my computer has frozen up. There we go. All right, so next we're just going to talk about what exactly is happening next with the return of delegations. So like we said, our main body of work at the moment is transitioning the special purpose vehicles, and we're aiming to get that done by the end of the month. But then we're going to tackle our next phase, which is looking at the oversized overmass vehicles, which is our last stage to return in Queensland. All right, so phase 3, which is the final phase in Queensland, we are going to be transitioning all remaining oversized overmass applications you would currently be receiving from TMR also back through to the NHVR portal. So what that means for you as a road manager, once we have returned phase 3, you will be fully in the NHVR portal, so you won't be receiving those emails from TMR anymore, and it's going to be a lot easier for you to track your access requests in the one system. So hopefully you'll start to see some benefits with that. The NHVR portal will start to give you all of your reporting functionality as well. So with all of that Class 1 data in there, in the one system, you can start to see the bigger picture and see exactly what Class 1 access has been requested in your area, and that's going to help reduce the administration burden for you when you can start to identify areas you can put to a pre-approval or move on to the notice as well.
I suppose that is a really good point, Edith, about when we finally do return the phase 3 and the final phase, which is the OSM vehicles, you will be completely utilising the NHVR portal for all heavy vehicle access applications and consent requests. What we are asking from our local councils at the moment is just to have a bit of a think about it. If you are seeing or identifying any issues with completely moving everything into the one system now, any internal council issues or anything at all that would result from this final stage, just to get in touch and reach out early on so that we can work through any concerns or issues. If you'd just like a little bit more information or just would like to stay in touch in regards to that final phase, please don't hesitate to contact us. So yeah, just to start having a bit of a think what that means for you and your council when it comes to moving all of these heavy vehicle consent requests into the NHVR portal. I'm assuming it is going to be a lot easier for road managers doing everything just out of the one system, but by all means, if there is any dramas by having that final transition, just get in touch early so that we can start to work through any issues or concerns.
Yeah. And majority of you are probably already using the NHVR portal for your PBS, your Class 2 applications. So hopefully you're in there and you're knowing how to use the system. But if any reason you're new to council or you need a bit of an update on how to use the system, we do monthly NHVR portal road manager training webinars. So we take you through the whole lot from start to finish, show you exactly how to process requests, and we'll give you some tips on how to get the most benefit from the system as well. So keep an eye out for them. We do send them out of our Eventbrite and we'll send them to every single road manager in Queensland when we do conduct that training also.
We have also just finished up a round of face-to-face training in Queensland, so from Cairns, Mackay, Townsville, Rockhampton. We even went out to Longreach. So we have just completed that face-to-face training. We always offer the online training. For whatever reason, if you'd like us to come back to your area and complete some more face-to-face training, it will just be done based on requests. So once again, just shoot us an email and let us know, and we can sort of investigate and see if we can come up for a visit in order to perform that face-to-face NHVR portal training for you.
All right, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the questionnaire box on the webinar chat now. I'll move on to the last slide, which is just some support contacts. So like we mentioned, there is the online NHVR portal training. In addition to that, we actually have recorded a previous online training that is stored on our website at the Delegations project webpage. So if you go onto the NHVR website and search Delegations project, you'll be able to find our main page, and all training videos are right at the bottom. So it saves if you're a bit sparse on time and you need to just watch the videos in your own time if you can't make the webinars. It makes it a lot easier for you, and the videos are also broken into each specific segment. So if you want to know how to do an alternate route, the video is being split out. If you need to add new users, the video is split out. So it makes it a lot easier for you to quickly go in if you need a quick refresher as well, even if you are using the portal all the time.
They're also really handy to know that if you are getting a new team member on starting and they haven't received an HCR portal training, you can put them in front of the computer and give them all, I think, 8 or 9 parts or 8 or 9 videos, and just get them to watch through them one at a time. And it is an excellent tool and just an excellent thing to know about. So the Delegations project webpage is where those videos will live, or the quick links to the videos. The videos themselves actually live on YouTube, so just to make sure that the council does give you access to YouTube. But also with that Delegations webpage, it has the ability to register for any future online training events. So just above the video links, we actually have a little table there that lets you know of all of our upcoming training, which is also just a really good point to just check in once a week to make sure that we're not offering anything in your local area. And then, of course, from there you can register for those events.
And the Delegations project page is also where we do all of our dates and upcoming updates. So if you are unsure on where we are at the project, we always keep that web page up to date. So feel free to have a look at that. When we do advise a go live date, so what we do is we'll send a letter to all of the members in the council that are using the portal. We also send some information sheets as well, so just explaining a little bit more of what the return of delegations actually is, and providing some support for customers as well. So all of that information we attach to that same web page as well, so it's a really handy link to see exactly what we've got going on. Now on the side here as well, we've got Athena's contact information, myself and our project director, Annette Finch. So please feel free to get in contact with us at any time if you have any questions in regards to the transition, or if you're needing any assistance with the NHVR portal, we're always happy to help. Now, I don't think we've received any questions in the question box, so what we'll do, Athena and I will hang around for a few minutes while we just see if there's any questions that come through. But please, after the session, if you think of anything, just flick us an email and we're happy to help.
And I suppose just because I have noticed some late joiners to today's session as well, the big messages and the key messages from today's session is that we are still working on returning phase 2 in Queensland, which is our SPV or special purpose vehicles. We are very, very close to confirming a go live date for that return, and we're still aiming or targeting by the end of October. So hopefully very soon you'll start to see those official dates come out via the letters. And we are pretty much in the background, at least anyway, starting to really think about the last phase 3 OSM. So just preparing and starting to work towards returning phase 3 OSM by the end of this year, ideally.
Excellent. So we'll hang around for a few more minutes, but thank you very much for those who have joined us. Anyone who joined late, we are recording this session as well, so we will be passing it out once we have the video recording. Thank you very much, and we'll just to end the call now, and we'll just wait for any last questions. Thank you.